and welcome to the next episode of our Masterclass series. During the next 30 minutes or so, I'm going to be joined by one of our most favourite lenders, and we'll be discussing and taking a deep dive into what makes them extra special in this specialist market that we actually work in. And today, I'm delighted to be joined by Nigel Robbins, who's National Account Manager of Lendinvest. Hi, Nigel. How are you doing?
I'm really well. Thanks, Jason, for that intro. Absolutely delighted to be on this webinar with you today. Literally, thoroughly delighted to be here. So, thank you very much for the opportunity.
Thanks for joining. And again, I know as we go through the next 30 minutes, I know there's going to be some real pearls of wisdom that we get into the audience. And probably the starting point, what I'll do with each of these sessions is probably just start by maybe talking a little bit about yourself and your journey with Lendinvest, and then maybe just before we take that deep dive into maybe some of the magic dust and the USPs that exist, just explain a little bit about Lendinvest and maybe the journey that that the company's been on as well.
Yeah, definitely. How long have you got? Jason, one thing you know about me, I can talk. I've been with Lendinvest about 5.5 years now. I joined them from a firm called Magellan Home Loans. I was merrily working with Magellan Home Loans, who unfortunately stopped lending. So opportunity presented itself with Lendinvest. I'd heard a few things about Lendinvest before joining, and all positive, but obviously I knew they were a technology-led business. Been with them 5.5 years, and my journey personally joined as a BDM for the Southwest South Wales area, an area that probably hadn't really been covered previously in the depth that it needed to be. So it was kind of just hit the ground running. I was fortunate that the areas that we specialised in at the time were buy-to-let and bridging. We weren't currently in the residential space at that time, so I had knowledge of both those products. So it's kind of fit perfect, mate. To be fair, I was able to hit the ground really running, and just cracked on in that area. Did that for a number of years, 3 or 4 years, and then had an opportunity to look at what we do with our larger partners. And when I say that, I call them strategic partners, and they're just building a strategy out regards to what we can do with them, what support we can give them. Because as you know, and I know, Jason, not every business is the same. And obviously Crystal within that umbrella for us was an opportunity where we can just look at, different angles, what works best. And, a BDM coming in to talk about residential when a broker doesn't do residential is kind of a pointless exercise. Okay. So it's just making sure that we marry that in the right way. So that's how I got to the position I'm now, National Account Manager. Delighted to do the role. Oversee all our strategic partners and our packaging relationships. So busy times, but thoroughly enjoyable.
Well, obviously the footprint the business has got is extensive. We can see that from the pull up behind you. So the footprint and the product suite is extensive, which is great. But what about magic dust in terms of flexibility? Lenders talk about being flexible, but these lenders and these pretenders, and sometimes the flexibility doesn't really resonate and extend into reality. What's some of the magic dust in terms of maybe criteria and specialisms around maybe the complex cases that we'd want to get out today?
Yeah, definitely. That's a great question, by the way, to start off with. So thank you for that. You're correct. I think most lenders go out there and say they claim that they do flexibility as their USP. I think the Lendinvestors have just highlighted, it's we've been in this market a long time, So we started in bridging in 2008 from our birth as a company, and we've been in the buy-to-let market for over 7 years now, and specifically targeting really that limited company type of application because we saw that was the market, and then residential for the last 2 years. So, and I think with all three products, we offer a solution that I'd consider covers most eventualities, if I'm honest. And I think it's one of those where you only know the case when it comes in to see you see it. If that is an application looking to purchase a remortgage or a property needing to use multiple incomes, to use their latest account, then we have that covered in our residential side of our business, which is definitely key. On the buy-to-let, they're looking to purchase a property in limited company or an SPV, then we have that covered. And that's from a first-time landlord, by the way, to a large portfolio. So I think with ourselves, the flexibility comes in that we treat all clients the same. So, you know, if we get an application on an individual or we get it as a limited company, we don't reprice that in any shape or form. It's treated the same. And I think that's huge for us. And then on our short-term lending proposition, that all the applications can leverage at a higher LTV than most in the market. We go up to 85% in that space. So that's definitely a significant move for us. But I suppose the real flexibility comes from the fact we're able to offer property finance from cradle to grave, if I can use that term. And that could be a transition that is purely a land purchase at the start that comes to us with no planning, to the eventuality that they've built the properties out, but actually then decide that they're going to rent them out rather than sell, or sell some of them and rent the others out. And then we can look at doing the buy-to-lets on that. So I think from a flexibility point of view, we have all areas covered. So I think we can truly say it's one of our USPs because we cover such a wide spectrum of products.
As we go through the conversation, I'm going to try and bring out some case studies and some of the unique cases that you've done some good facilities on over the last couple of months or so. But before I do that, I just want to talk about I suppose, speed and the importance of getting to completion. So one of the things a business like ourselves has to deliver, Nigel, is that certainty of decision up front. So usually brokers, when they've come to Crystal, they've probably been down 2 cul-de-sacs before they're arriving. So you've got, you know, quite a stressed applicant, and you've got a highly charged broker who just wants a solution. So that certainty of decision is really important to us. But as is, when we go through the process, getting things right first time, so we get the funding delivered quickly. So, you know, what kind of I suppose, how does a business like Crystal actually play a vital role in the partnership? So you talk about the role of partnership there, but how do we wrap this real requirement to deliver speed and underwriting certainty in the collaboration that you and I do together, or our businesses do together?
Yeah, again, great question, but 100% agree. But I think what is more important is getting the right decision for the broker. So you can have a quick answer, but actually, if that answer is a pointless answer, it's a pointless exercise, right? So it's making sure you get that right answer, and I think that's where Crystal really comes into its play with us. You know, your level of understanding, because of the quality of your staff, can pick up our criteria really, really quick. And as a result, that really benefits the process. So I would definitely say at Lendinvest, as you're fully aware, we use technology to enhance the submission of an application. And I think you guys have bought into that really well. You understand that, you use it to the best of its advantage. So as a benefit from ourselves, we built the new portal, which we've now currently got in the market from the start of this year. You guys actually gave us some real significant feedback. You were part of that process because you understand the importance of making sure that when you're delivering to the lender, that you're delivering effectively once, because you don't want to drip feed the information. You want to make sure you've got that and you deliver, and you do that really, really well. But what happens with the portal, as you're fully aware, is it allows the broker to submit any one of the products via the same system. So instead of going on to multiple different systems, it's now all embedded into one. And that's made a massive difference to the speed that we're able to operate at. And if that's a simple bridge where we give full heads of terms, you know, you do 10 clicks on our system and it will give you a heads of terms, which is significant, right? Because it gives a full picture on what those costs are associated with that bridge. And then you've got a buy-to-let where often it's required, you know, all we need is a background portfolio. So from your guys, it's okay, I know what the Lendinvest are looking for on this case, and you're able to understand that and dictate to them, or wrong word, but actually, you know, advise the broker that this is all we need, right? This is all you're going to need, and this is a lender that's got a great reputation within the market. I think in our residential space, we can use multiple incomes and so forth. And again, certainly your team is way ahead of the curve here, can I say, fully understanding what's acceptable, what's not acceptable. And I think from our perspective, there's two areas when it comes to speed, right? So speed of delivery, i.e. the decision that's going to come, but actually it's once you've got that decision, how you progress that. So if you need to speak to an underwriter, it's making sure that you have that information. And one thing with us as an underwriter, the underwriter takes ownership of the case. So they have direct emails, they have direct phone numbers on every email that goes out. So from your guys' perspective, when you do this really well with us, is that you just we encourage that phone call into us or an email to us or using the portal. But you guys do it really well because that's how you're building the relationship with ourselves, but making sure that the delivery for your broker is absolutely spot on. And then once the offer is completed, and once we've gone to offer, let's be brutally honest, then the work really has to start, because actually no one gets paid until that case gets completed. So one thing we have done is we've got a completions team. So once the case gets offered, goes into the legal process, then our completions team take ownership of that, and a case manager is associated to every case. And then your guys can liaise with the case manager, which they do on a regular basis, which then just ensures that we get as smooth as possible conclusion to the case. So yeah, I think Lendinvest is great reputation when it comes to speed and responsiveness. I think it's probably one of the areas that most people would say that's why they use Lendinvest.
And certainly, that technology at the front end, as you touched on there, it is one of the best ones out there, and that continuity that you deliver, you described as like cradle to grave, that continuity of dealing with the same person as we go through from the application process to the funding solution. It's really important just to ensure there's a consistency of approach. And then just returning back to the products then. So great that we've got this extensive product range, and I'm just wondering maybe what the best sellers are in terms of the products, because as I said, look, I'm bound to say this, having been both sides of the fence, but I think that cascade that you're able to offer, and that ability to be able to just have the synergy between the product range, to being able to deliver an exit for a bridge and just simple stuff like that. Not everybody can do that, but your business can. That cascade that I've touched on is great within your business. I'd obviously argue that we can cascade from lender to lender, which is even more powerful. But what you've got with your footprint is great. But I'm really interested in what are the key products and why.
Yeah, that definitely is. Well, I've got to be honest. I mean, you've heard me talk before, so this could be a dangerous opening for me. So, there's huge benefits to our product suite, Jason. There really is. And like I say, if anybody's seen me pitch before, they'll know I don't shut up about it. And I think if I tried to break that down into simple areas of what we're seeing most of at the moment, and that's probably the best area to start. We're seeing, as you would expect, the majority of our business is HMOs and multi-unit freehold blocks. So HMOs, where we'll look at first-time landlords in that space. So again, not all lenders will do that. On HMOs, we'll go up to 15 beds, and on multi-unit freehold blocks, we go up to 10 units. We also can look at hybrids. So what you are finding in the market these days, and more of those properties are a mixture of both. So you might have 2 flats on a 4-bed, etc., and so forth. So you can get that hybrid. Again, there's some limited appetite in the market for that type of business. We've seen much more of that. And I suppose the one area we are seeing more of is properties closer to commercial outlets. And I think that's probably no surprise based on the current market, where more and more properties are being converted back into resi from the high street. The high street is getting quieter, as we all know. It doesn't matter where you live. But actually what we are seeing is more of those properties that are converted back into residential. So therefore close by to a commercial outlet. And we're really good at that area. We'll look at properties next to pubs. We'll look at properties next to tattoo artists, hairdressers, all the things that you typically would come up We still probably have some reservations regards to if it's got smells, if you like. So, you know, your takeaways, your kebab houses. But again, it depends on the trading style of those businesses. So, you know, if a Chinese restaurant was next door, but that closed at 10 o'clock at night, for instance, and there was no real disturbance at the evening, we may be able to consider that. However, if you've got a kebab house that's open till 3 o'clock, to be fair, my daughter's just gone to university, so I'm fully aware that these places are open till ridiculous hours in the morning. So yeah, so again, it's probably not for us, that type of thing, but ultimately we're definitely seeing more and more that next to commercial on the buy to let. On the residential, we definitely see more on the complex income cases. I think if I was looking backtrack to all the cases you've sent through to us, every one of those would have something that's linked with multiple incomes. And again, that's back to my point earlier, regards to understanding the criteria. You guys do that really well. What's acceptable, what's not. But I suppose where most people would consider us in that space is where we look at professionals, because we'll take up to 6.49 times income. And for key workers, we lend up to 5.5 times. So we're also seeing applicants with recent blips, as you're probably seeing within your business, and a reflection of why you're so busy at this moment in time, because effectively those small defaults from utility bills, are an irritation rather than a problem. And just because of the cost of living, we're seeing that. So we'll ignore any utility bill up to £250 if it's a default and so forth. So effectively, you could have a 90% loan with us, even been on that scenario. And then on the bridging, I'd say we have a wide spectrum of inquiries. If I'm being brutally honest, I don't think there's any one trick pony for us in that space. But I suppose if I was looking at what we typically get on a standard inquiry, then that would typically be your auction type purchase, which is still a prevalent market. And then anything that needs a refurbishment, because refurbishment certainly seems to be regeneration of property is key at the moment. We all know that. It's the lack of housing stock. So we're definitely seeing that as our bread and butter. And obviously we go up to 85% in that space. So that gives us a kind of an edge within the market. Told you, don't give me an inch, because I'm just going to talk forever.
No, really good. Look, and applicant profile wise, I mean, one of the things we're seeing on the bridging side is, the applicant profile has changed over the last couple of years for sure. We've got A-star graded applicants who just want to move quick, and they might take might do a bridge on an unencumbered residential property just because they want one of the partners has seen a property they want down the road or near the coast. They just want to be able to position themselves as a cash buyer to move quickly. And the discounts that become available when you're a cash buyer and able to move quickly often compensate the perceived expensive cost of bridging. And that's the other thing. There's a perception that bridging is expensive. And look, we both know it's not the cheapest way to actually borrow, but in the right circumstance, it's highly competitive. And when we've been around the block like you and I've been over the years, with the competitive nature of so many entrants in the marketplace now, as a costing, it's not as expensive as it's been in the past, and we're attracting some really A-star type customer profiles.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. And I think also it's just understanding how you can fund that bridge as well. So, most people would think of a bridge on a retained interest basis, but obviously there's different options out there. There's a rolled up interest, our 85% on a rolled up interest. You've got serviced, where most people wouldn't go down that service route, but if they're in a position to do that, a style client, if you like high net worth, then that may be the right. But actually it's making sure that they understand what their journey is looking like, what the exit is, and actually does part work. So is 6 months retained, 6 months service. We've seen a lot more of that, because that obviously gives you more day one. So yeah, I totally agree with you. And I think, there is a perception that actually bridging can be expensive within the marketplace. However, bridging is totally used as a true solution in these days. Unfortunately, in today's market, is used as a clear solution. And I think there is a solution out there. And for most opportunity, I always say, most people say to me, Nigel, I don't do any bridging. And I go, I'm amazed you don't do any bridging. And they go, what? And I went, have you ever had a decline? And if you've had a decline due to a property, for whatever reason, if it's a a property that's got nil value because it's got subsidence or whatever it's got. But if it's come back as a nil valuation, you've probably got a bridge sitting on your desk. Now that may not be the right solution for your client, but you've got a bridge opportunity there, definitely.
Great tip. That in itself is just a great tip, and similar to you, Nigel, we see it all the time where the telephone account manager team and field team are seeing brokers who, still doing their product transfers and maybe a little bit of buy to let, and still a little bit hesitant to get into maybe the specialist space. But again, it's no more difficult than the mainstream space if you partner with the right people. I think it's difficult to be a generalist now, isn't it? So when we look at brokers and look at the challenges we've got with, I suppose, client circumstance, it's really difficult to be a generalist and try to be an expert in every area. And even a business like ourselves, Nigel, we recognise sometimes it's good to stick to your knitting, and bridging commercial and complex buy to let. We know there's a level of expertise and competency within the business, and sometimes having a real focus and energy around that, it's certainly not a shortcoming. The development market, I just want to talk about that really quickly, because like you, we offer development as a product vertical. It's been tough this year, hasn't it, in terms of material costs, just the general the general activity just hasn't been there from what we've seen. Have you observed similar?
Yeah, definitely. I think it's been a challenge since COVID. Let's be brutally honest. It's definitely COVID, and I think that's why the market is seeing more of that conversion stuff. It's seeing more of that refurbishment rather than the ground up. Most developers are scared stiff. Well, no, they're not scared stiff. They want to build houses, right? They absolutely want to build houses, but the problem is the cost of building those houses escalated out of all proportion, and the margins aren't there. So yes, you've got the challenges of making sure that you get the planning, etc. But ultimately, it comes down to, even if they build those properties, is it going to be are they going to get the right return out there? And at the moment, that's still a challenge for them. And until that starts coming down, regards to their cost of their materials and their labor, I think it will probably stay as is, still quite stagnated. But I do think ultimately that we are still what you are seeing is regeneration of property, which I think is a great thing, right? I think it's, we're seeing that. Obviously our 85% product in the market is certainly an area that people are certainly utilizing, and that is purely, you've got a rundown property, it's sitting on the street, no one's living in it, and we've got a housing crisis. Well, it's fantastic that these properties are being brought back to life, and I think we're seeing more of that. Than, back to your question, in regards to the development, which I still think is going to continue to be a bit of a challenge. However, with the new government and opening up some of the brown belt and so forth, that could present bigger opportunities for us. We're certainly starting to see a few more inquiries within that space. Can I say we're definitely always got appetite to lend in that space. We do really well in that. And again, I suppose it's one of those where, and you'll see this from your own business, is that a lot of that is repeat clients. So you'll get a developer, they'll buy into the broker and the lender, and they utilize that partnerships fully. So I would say, if anybody is or has a development opportunity, doesn't really understand that market, doesn't understand or want to get their hands dirty on it, because let's be honest, Jace, it can take forever. It can take a long time, So if it is taking a long time, then use the experts, and that's where I would say Crystal definitely come into their own. You've got a fantastic.
It's definitely a journey that the broker and the client can go on, but the differential between a bridge and a development is there's not huge variances, but I think 300,000 houses, what the government are aiming for over the next 5 years, aren't they? I think it's going to be incredibly interesting to see what stimulus they can provide, and just exactly how the hell we're gonna do it, because we're miles off it at the moment. And then I want to try and bring out maybe a couple of really brilliant case studies, if we can, mate, because again, I know we talked about criteria, we've talked about that flexibility and the range of products and services the businesses has got. And yeah, I'm sure. I'm only gonna. We've only got time for two because again, I know you could probably reel off, yeah, reams of them. But just bear in mind where you've said the sweet spots have been within the product range. Just interested to understand maybe a couple of case studies that you think would maybe stand out, and just a picture paints 1,000 words, doesn't it, to the people who are listening?
Yeah, definitely. Well, I suppose the first one would be we've just literally. I'm thinking it's just fresh in my head. Or I could reel off hundreds, to be fair. But the one I think there's one that literally's just come into us. Never used us for a bridge before. Used other lenders. Obviously, we've been pushing that space quite aggressively recently. We lowered the pricing. With our speed of service is well known within that space, but if you haven't used us before, you don't know that. And obviously the portal is definitely beneficial. So a submission came into us. It was a straightforward auction type purchase. They purchased at auction, tight schedule line. They just looking to acquire the property. They submitted it on the portal. The portal gave them the heads of terms within 2 hours. Based on that, they went, yep, we're going with it. Moved that into an application on that same day. Legal evaluation were instructed, and we were able to complete that within 9 days. Now, I'm not saying every bridge is going to complete in 9 days. However, the speed of the portal and making sure that they had everything in place for that submission is key to any bridge. And if you're not using, we offer dual representation within that market, and that's been really beneficial. So dual representation was used within that, and effectively it just sped up that whole process. So that's definitely one quick case study that I'd say on the bridging, and that's purely just emphasizing the speed of using the portal and making sure that if you are dealing with the client, that the client is fully aware that this is a bridge. So a lot of the time with the bridge, it's on the client to ensure that they're submitting the correct information. On this scenario, it wasn't a schedule of works or anything, it was just a straight purchase. And then I think the other one I'd probably use, because it was fresh in my mind, and this is more on the residential side, and that's probably because that case came to us because it'd gone, Jason, and I know you've already highlighted, we've been in the game a long time. It'd been around the houses effectively. So what we had on the residential, we had a joint first-time buyer looking to purchase a property in Scotland. So one thing with Lendinvest, I don't know if you are aware or the audience are aware, is that we lend in England, Scotland, and Wales. We have no postcode restrictions in any of those areas. Obviously only mainland Scotland. So if you've got to go to one of the Scottish Isles and you've got to get there by a boat or plane, that's not for us. But if it's mainland, then that's absolutely fine. So in any case, we had this first time buyer looking in Scotland, looking for 90%. The problem they faced, Jace, was they were turned down due to their credit score. So the broker looked for a lender that did not credit score. Obviously, we do not credit score. We only credit search. And we use a pragmatic approach when it comes to that. So we looked at the credit score was low due to the historic adverse. So they had a bit of adverse historically, which obviously didn't help them because they were first-time buyers. And then there was the income was made up of earned income and benefits. So again, probably a challenge in 3 different areas there. The property was looking to purchase was next to a commercial outlet as well. It wasn't anything takeaway wise, but it was I think it was a nail bar, which and I know pop up everywhere, or which can be on your high street now or down your residential street these days. So the applicants on that scenario, they signed up to what we call open banking. Some of your audience may be familiar with it, but if they're not, they certainly should be. Open banking is used more and more with institutions like ourselves because of the speed. So no bank statements need to be required. We can just go on the open banking and get a clear picture. So the broker submitted the awards letter for the benefits. So from our perspective, the underwriter was quickly on that, established a clear picture on after receiving the valuation came back. and then we went to offer in 6 days. So when you're talking about specialist space and you talk about helping individuals, then for me, that's a first-time buyer looking to get on the property ladder, had historic problems, property probably reflective of a first-time buyer, and that's not being disrespectful, by the way. That's just saying that, you know, the house prices these days, first-time buyer, and know from my own experience, got a 24-year-old daughter, still living at home. But, you know, the harsh reality is it's hard to get. So they were looking for 99K on 90%. And we offered in 6 days. So, you know, happy broker, happy client. And I genuinely think we've helped them, you know, get onto that property ladder. So that's probably a good example to use, only because it's really fresh.
Two good examples there. And I mentioned before about the crystal business. We've got to deliver that certainty. Broker's been down those two cul-de-sacs, and we've got to, you know, relieve the anxiety and the stress that existing with both the client and the broker. And interesting, when you give the bridging example, I think one of the most important things we do with I suppose the panel that we've actually got, which obviously includes yourselves prominently, is we know which of the lenders are actually best placed to deliver at the timescale. So as much as the exit's important, how quickly the applicant needs the bridge, needs the funds, actually does play a huge part in that selection process that we deliver up front. And, you know, there's some lenders who'll remain nameless who, if the deal needs to complete within 4 weeks, there is no way, despite the pricing that they can offer, there's no way you could go to any of those lenders, because they'll just fail to deliver within the timeframes. With yourselves, when you're delivering, you know, in 6 days, 9 days, there we know that if we can deliver, follow that inception process, the decisioning process, but deliver comprehensively what's required, we know you can deliver within the timescale. So it's a real crucial aspect to the selection and recommendation that we'll deliver as a business. And then with that complex income scenario, understanding what lenders will not accept is more important than what they will accept. So understanding what in a black and white way, so you don't go down unnecessary rabbit holes, just help save time. So I think that certainty and that ability to save brokers time are the value add that when we work in partnership together, we can really deliver as a brilliant outcome for both. And I'm just wondering, there was a few broker questions that had come in like previously, but to be honest with you, mate, when I read them, we kind of covered them off, because the first question was asking about complex income structures and how Lendinvest would deal with the complex income structures. You've kind of touched on that as we've gone through the conversation and given some real nice examples of that. The second question was more around the niche areas. So where we've got niche clients with niche needs, where is where would Lendinvest step in? When I think when we were talking about the magic dust and again those case studies that you've just given, I think that covers that off. So I think probably the last question, I suppose, before I summarise them, mate, is really just, is there anything in terms of the that product suite and that real product strength that you've actually got within the portfolio? Is there anything we've maybe not covered? Because look, we've spoke about the first-time landlords and the edges there. We spoke about the higher LTVs that we can maybe see that we wouldn't necessarily get from elsewhere. There's a competitiveness of pricing which is consistent, so not dipping in and dipping out, which is great. The dual rep that you've mentioned, I don't think we can understate just how brilliant having dual representation is, particularly in a marketplace now where businesses like ourselves have got the biggest pipeline we've ever had, but that mismatch of residential mainstream conveyancer trying to do a specialist case on behalf of the borrower is so frustrating. So that dual rep is so important. So I'm just wondering, is there anything else that we need to draw out that maybe I've not drawn out with the questioning?
No, well, to be fair, I think we covered a majority of the stuff. I think on the residential stuff, some of the things that people would use is for the residential, as I've already highlighted, is the multiple income. Obviously, I mentioned that professionals would go up to 6.5 or 6.49 times, but also, that would include your typical doctors, vets, but it also includes engineers. So Corgi registered, etc. Engineer would be categorized in that. And the one where the feedback has come, and again, I think with Lendinvest, truly do believe this, is we're a lender that listens. We genuinely do listen. So if we haven't got it right, we'll try and change it. And if there's something in the market that we're not quite covering, then we'll look and see if we can get appetite. The way we're funded allows us to do that. So even on, we do key workers 5.5 times or 5.49 times on the residential income. But that doesn't have to be clinical in the NHS. So it could be non-clinical. So you could have porters, admin, etc. And that all categorized in that NHS umbrella for a key worker. So those are the things that I think truly from Lendinvest perspective is that we continue to develop. But that development only comes from feedback. I stand up in every presentation I do, Jason, and I genuinely say it to everybody. I say, if we haven't got it right, just feedback to us, because every lender will say, yeah, okay, we'll take that feedback. But we genuinely do. A number of our enhancements for our products come from that. We've just gone to 75% on buy to let for new build flats. We were at 70%, gone to 75%. So all that sort of stuff comes from that area. What I would say is, yeah, if your broker's not sure, then the collaboration that we have with Crystal is extremely strong. You guys know our criteria. You're experts in your market, but more importantly, we have the same DNA, because actually for us, speed is the key. It's making sure you get that speed decision, and actually if you're going to use speed as the example, then making sure that that is the right answer all the time. Now, it doesn't need to be a positive answer. It can be a no, but let's make sure that we get to that no quicker rather than dragging that out. And I think we do that really well, but I think that's a reflection of the relationship we've got with yourself, with Crystal, and your staff.
Well, I think both companies are outcome focused, and we're trying to deliver brilliant outcomes to the customer. I know it sounds a little bit cheesy, but that's exactly what we're trying to deliver. And what about the 2025 year then, Nigel, in terms of appetite and ambitions? And what I know we touched on that specialist market and the impaired credit. We both see that growing, and you touched on that earlier with how flexible you've been with with defaults, etc. So how do you see the 2025 year, and how's the appetite within the lender?
Yeah, it's a great question. So I was out with the CEO only last week, so he got asked this question the other week, so I can probably tell you exactly what he said. And I think he reflected that he sees very much similar this year. We're having a great year this year, as I highlighted at the start, and we believe that will continue. We still feel that the buy-to-let market will continue to grow, albeit that comes with its own challenges, and we know what the current government, I'm not getting political state here, but we know what's happening there in regards to the stamp duty, etc. But these good landlords have had challenges before, right? And they continue to arise above that. And as I mentioned earlier, I think the regeneration of properties is key, and they still see that as real quality. I always use the example of HMOs. An old HMO 8 years ago was a mattress on a room, and they'd call it an HMO, right? These places now are high spec because it's not students only that are going into these space. So I think what we will see is rents will hopefully stagnate, and therefore more professionals will stay in those higher end properties, and I think that's the demand. Hence, we're all seeing a large increase in the bridging if you look at the numbers that are presented out there. So I think we'll see the growth in the bridging. I still think it's a great opportunity within the buy-to-let. Obviously, we specialise in that limited company buy-to-let arena, and I still think that's probably the right area to be in, because I think that's the area that most landlords will venture moving forward. Development we've already covered. Regards to, I think there will be a greater appetite, but actually that won't be a large influx. It will be a gradual influx. And then on the residential, I think we'll still continue to see more and more blips, unfortunately, as that credit crunch is kind of hitting through. So the challenges that are still faced, gas, electric still going up, etc. So I still think we're going to see a bit of that. However, I think we'll find ourselves evolving within that space as well. We've only been in the residential for the last couple of years. I think you'll see probably a new phase from Lendinvest moving forward in that space. But I think it's really positive. We're looking really forward to 25. I definitely, like I say, CEO was very upbeat, and that makes me feel great. Obviously, a number of funding lines, and you may have recently seen JP Morgan, obviously, I think it's now 1.5 billion invested with ourselves. So we continue to do that. We've just done another securitization at 300 million. So, all the pictures are really positive at this moment in time. We just don't want anything else to come down the line that we've had over the last couple of years. Let's just get a normal playing field for a bit. I think we all could do with that.
Just when we think we've seen everything, something else comes as a curveball, doesn't it? But I share the sentiment there. Let's hope we don't see too many curveballs as we go through the next couple of years. And look, everything you say there, I echo. We see nothing but opportunity over the next few years. And when you're as old as I am, you've kind of lived through the various cycles, and I can see a real opportunity over the next few years, particularly in that specialist space. And look, we've only got 5 lenders we're doing this masterclass series with, and we're trying to back the winners of the future. And I think everything you've said there in terms of the vision Lendinvest has got, and the values around outcome, but also listening to collaborate to improve, is there's a humility to that which we see with the people. So look, we're really pleased to have you as one of our key partners. I only see growth over the next few years, and thank you for your time today, which has been great. And I'm sure there's some brilliant takeaway for people to embrace. So really appreciate your time, and thanks, Nigel.
More than welcome. Thanks very much for the opportunity.